Dr. Marc Brackett, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you today about many things related to emotions. We hear the word emotions and we have all sorts of ideas about what they are, what they aren't. We also hear about emotional intelligence quite a lot these days. And I have a feeling that the way it's discussed is often not the way it really is. So to just kick things off, could you clarify for me, for everyone, what is emotional intelligence? What does it pertain to? And then maybe we can use that as a way to drill into the deeper question of what are emotions.
Sure. I think, at the simplest level, it's how we reason with and about our emotions and feelings. That's like the simple definition. The way I talk about it is as a set of skills. And we use the acronym RULER to describe those skills. The first is recognizing emotions. So I'm trying to read your facial expression right now, right? Are you interested or are you bored already? I'm trying to understand emotions. Where are they coming from? Like, why am I feeling this way? What's the consequence of that feeling? The third is labeling emotions, so being precise with the words that we use to describe our feelings. The fourth is expressing emotions, knowing how and when to express emotions with different people across context and culture. And then the big one is the final R, which is regulating emotions. What are the strategies we use to help us deal with everyday emotions?
Understanding emotions as a skill set changes how people think about feelings in daily life. Recognizing and labeling emotions shows that awareness is the first step towards self-control. Learning when and how to express feelings highlights the importance of communication in relationships. Regulating emotions stands out as the most powerful ability because it shapes decisions and reactions. This explanation makes emotional intelligence feel practical, not abstract, something anyone can develop with practice.
Accurately kind of label these emotions in faces, body, and voice.
When I think about most uses of the words emotional intelligence, it seems to correlate, again, in a very non-scientific way, seems to correlate with one's ability to tolerate others' emotions and make sense of the emotions of others. For instance, I've heard it said before, not about me, that so-and-so has high emotional intelligence because in the presence of their child or someone else's kid reacting in a certain way, they were able to see, they just feel blank, and therefore they are screaming, as opposed to defaulting to a broad binning of what they were observing and saying, oh my goodness, that kid is a brat, for instance. You're describing emotional intelligence as a self-perception as well.
Yes.
And so is our task, therefore, to do the equivalent of what, in my little anecdote, this other person was doing, to be able to parse one's own emotions in a fine enough way to understand the experience in kind of a third-person way that one can regulate their behavior, what they say, how they act. How much is recognition of others' emotions and understanding of those, as opposed to one's recognition and understanding of their own emotions, factoring into this thing that we call emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence becomes more powerful when it includes both understanding yourself and reading others. Using videos and real-life cues instead of static images shows how complex human emotions truly are. The example about judging a child highlights how labeling emotions correctly can prevent misunderstanding. Seeing emotions from a third person perspective helps people respond calmly instead of reacting impulsively. This conversation suggests that emotional intelligence is less about controlling feelings and more about understanding them deeply.
Got so much I want to share, but I don't know how much I'm going to share. So there's like all that awareness of my emotion. Sometimes I have language for it, sometimes I don't, like any of us. And that's why it starts off with kind of just a general awareness, like, am I pleasant? Am I unpleasant? Do I have a lot of energy or do I feel depleted? And we call that, your core affect. And then I could start asking myself questions like, well, what are you doing right now, Mark? Well, I'm sitting across from Andrew being interviewed. Oh, okay, well, how does that, what comes up for you with that? And then I try to label that feeling. So that's like the R, the U, and the L of emotional intelligence for the self. And I'm doing the same thing for you. I'm looking at your facial expressions, your body language. I'm listening to you. I'm trying to understand if I say something, do you shift? And I'm trying to put language to it. So it's self and other.
Emotional intelligence is shown here as a balance between understanding yourself and reading others at the same time. The idea of co-regulating emotions highlights how people constantly influence each other without realizing it. Breaking feelings into simple questions makes emotional awareness feel practical and trainable. Paying attention to body language and tone shows that communication goes far beyond just words.
Body awareness, have high emotional intelligence.
Well, I think another big deal about emotional intelligence is that we like to think of it as, or people think of it as, this construct. I don't think that's the best way to look at it. I think it's much more interesting to look at it as a set of discrete skills that come together. They're not that highly correlated. And so, I really like to think of them as emotion skills. And that within the R, the U, the L, the E, and the R that I described, there are sub-skills. And so part of what you're talking about is the body awareness. Some people are more cognitive, they're just very language oriented. Some people, a lot of therapists, talking about somatosensory things, all good. I think at the end though, this is why I teach this stuff, is that we have to know how we feel. We got to know what we want to do with those feelings. And we have to know how the people we live with and love and work with and teach, how they feel too. And so we need language in the end.
Emotional intelligence is better understood as multiple skills working together rather than one fixed ability. The brain-body connection shows that emotions are experienced in both physical sensations and thoughts. Some people rely more on logic and language, while others are more in tune with bodily signals. Despite these differences, emotional awareness ultimately requires the ability to identify and understand feelings clearly. This discussion highlights that true emotional intelligence comes from combining self-awareness with practical emotional language.
Trained to understand what feelings were. In fact, I know neuroscientists and psychologists are still trying to figure out what feelings and emotions really are. So, a couple of questions. When it comes to using language to describe our emotions, how important do you feel it is to have a broad buffet of options? A previous guest on this podcast, Lisa Feldman Barrett, and I talked about this a bit, and she mentioned that in some cultures, there's very specific language for specific emotions. In fact, there's even a word to describe the feeling of sadness one has in a particular culture after getting a really bad haircut.
Yeah.
Which is incredible when one thinks about it.
We all know what that feels like.
Right. We know what it feels like. Right. But there isn't, to my knowledge,
we don't have the word.
A word for that in the English language. I mean, I'm sure there's a curse word for it in the English language, but not necessarily for that specific feeling.
Language gives structure to emotions, turning vague feelings into something we can understand and share. Having more precise words allows people to distinguish between similar but different emotional states. The idea of emotional granularity shows how better labeling leads to better self-awareness and control. Clear emotional vocabulary helps communities communicate more effectively and reduces misunderstanding. This perspective highlights that improving emotional intelligence starts with expanding how we name and describe what we feel. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section.